On Christmas night, my sister unwrapped her gift and squealed, "Hermes Birkin, Mom, you're the best." I held a free grocery bag while my mother chuckled, "This suits you, luxury isn't your style." My sister smirked. "You wouldn't have anywhere to take a nice bag anyway." I said nothing, just stared at her Birkin and smiled. She had no idea what that smile meant. Olivia Payne gazed at the glittering New York skyscrapers outside her window, checking her watch. Just a few hours until her flight. She had already prepared everything for her trip back to her family home in the Chicago suburbs. She picked up the latest Hermes wallet on her desk and carefully examined every detail. The precision of the stitching, the texture of the leather, the placement of the logo, everything was perfect. "Excellent work, this is definitely authentic." She smiled with satisfaction and signed the certificate of authentication. As a senior authenticator for the International Luxury Brand Authentication Association, Olivia's signature was recognized as valid certification worldwide. Her talent was extraordinary. She could instantly spot the slightest irregularity in stitching, or subtle differences in materials. This ability had brought her international fame and a stable high income. However, at her family home in the Chicago suburbs, no one appreciated the brilliance of her career. Her phone rang, with Mom displayed on the screen. Olivia sighed and answered, "Olivia, what time is your flight?" "Catherine is arriving this afternoon. Remember her new boyfriend? Jeremy Winston III, of the Winston Jewelers. He's coming too." Eleanor Payne's excited voice rang in Olivia's ear. The pride and expectation in her mother's voice only ever appeared when she talked about her sister Catherine. "Yes, I remember. My flight is at 6 p.m. I'll arrive tomorrow morning. Couldn't you change to an earlier flight? I'm planning a special dinner for Catherine. I want you to be there too." Olivia quietly closed her eyes. "I have work. I'll get there as soon as I can. I can't believe how successful she's become. Last week she was invited to a charity gala in Washington, D.C. She says her Instagram followers have passed 20,000. You should really follow her example a bit more." Olivia said nothing, staring out the window. What Catherine called success in society was actually supported by their parents' wallets and a manufactured online life. At 28, Catherine still had no stable job and lived on her parents' support. "Olivia, you're going to wear something nice for Christmas, aren't you? Last year your outfit was, well, was there something wrong with my clothes?" Olivia asked quietly. "I just think you could dress up a bit more. Catherine's friends are all so sophisticated. We need to look presentable too. I'll come as I am. If that doesn't suit you, I can stay at a hotel." Her mother sighed on the other end of the line. "You're always so stubborn. Anyway, we'll be waiting for you tomorrow." After hanging up, Olivia sank deep into her chair with a tired expression. Her relationship with her family had always been complicated. Growing up in a middle-class home in the Chicago suburbs, Olivia had developed modest living habits and practical values. In contrast, her mother Eleanor and sister Catherine were obsessed with superficial glamour and social status. Olivia's simple clothing and reserved demeanor were only ever labeled as a plain by her family. They had only a vague understanding of her job as something to do with looking at antiques or whatever. They didn't know that Olivia held a senior position at an international authentication agency and earned a six-figure salary. Not because she deliberately hid it, but simply because they never showed interest in what she had to say. "Congratulations, Olivia." Turning around, she saw her colleague James Morrison. He approached her desk with a warm smile. "The bonus for discovering the Louis Vuitton counterfeit came through. That was quite an achievement. Is this what you'll be bragging about to your family?" Olivia gave a small laugh. "My family doesn't really understand what I do. It's not something to brag about." James raised an eyebrow curiously. "You're kidding, right? You're one of the most trusted authenticators in the industry. That Milan counterfeit ring was busted thanks to you. Your family should be proud. Their values are different. For my mother and sister, success means how lavishly you live and how much attention you get in social circles. Then why not tell them your salary?" James winked. Olivia shook her head. "I don't want to talk about money. I just want them to understand my values." As Olivia picked up her suitcase and prepared to leave the office, she thought about the bonus she had earned for her recent major achievement. She was financially very comfortable, but that didn't change her modest lifestyle. For Olivia, true luxury wasn't about material things but about using her talents and living honestly. She chose a white cashmere sweater and simple black pants and packed them in her suitcase. It wasn't the flashy outfit her family expected, but it had Olivia's characteristic elegance. While waiting for a taxi, Olivia took a deep breath to prepare for the days ahead in Chicago. Catherine's boasting, her mother's critical gaze, their misunderstanding of her career, all were predictable. Still, Christmas was a time to spend with family. When she rang the doorbell at her family home, she heard Catherine's cheerful voice. "Coming." The door opened to reveal her perfectly styled sister. Finally here, Catherine gave her sister a light hug. Adorned with luxurious jewelry and a designer dress, she looked as if she was on her way to a party. Look at my new Chanel bag, an early Christmas present from Jeremy. Olivia smiled. Her expert eye immediately recognized the bag as authentic. It's lovely, she answered quietly. Entering the living room, she found her mother Eleanor standing in an elaborate holiday dress. Olivia, you've finally arrived? She looked Olivia up and down, frowning slightly at her simple outfit. How was your trip? Fine, Mom. No problems, Olivia replied calmly, offering a small gift package. Eleanor took the package, feeling its slight weight. Chicago chocolates? Same as last year? Olivia nodded silently. In fact, it was a limited edition specially ordered from a famous Parisian chocolatier, but its simple packaging prevented her mother from recognizing its value. Catherine, darling, tell Olivia about the upcoming charity gala, Eleanor said excitedly. Catherine happily began talking about social events, meeting celebrities, and her popularity on Instagram. Olivia listened quietly, seeing through the obviously exaggerated stories. Outside the window, snow had begun to fall silently. As the Christmas atmosphere enveloped the house, Olivia decided to spend this holiday peacefully, despite sensing her family's distorted values. On Christmas Eve, the Payne family living room was warmly lit by the fireplace and numerous candles. A large Christmas tree stood in the corner of the room, lavishly decorated with sparkling ornaments and colorful lights. Under the tree, gifts of various sizes were piled up. After dinner, the Payne family gathered in the living room. Mother Eleanor held a champagne glass, wearing a proud smile. Catherine's new boyfriend, Jeremy Winston III, sat next to Catherine on the sofa, dressed in an expensive tuxedo. Now, it's time for the gift exchange, Eleanor announced loudly. This year will be special. Olivia sat in an armchair near the fireplace, smiling quietly. Family tradition dictated that the mother would distribute presents first. Eleanor elegantly stood up and pulled out a large box from under the tree. The box was wrapped in luxurious gold paper and decorated with a red ribbon. Catherine, this is my gift to you. Eleanor handed the box to her daughter. I thought this would be perfect for you. Catherine's face lit up with excitement. She quickly untied the ribbon and tore the wrapping paper. Inside was what appeared to be a brown leather luxury bag. A Hermes Birkin. Catherine screamed. Mom, I love it. You're the best. She held the bag up with both hands and began dancing around the room. I've been waiting for this. Everyone will be so jealous. Jeremy, look, a real Birkin. Jeremy nodded casually, saying, That's wonderful, Kat. But Olivia's eyes had immediately focused on the details of the bag. As a product authentication expert, her gaze automatically captured the subtle unevenness of the stitching, the slight difference in leather texture, and the subtle misalignment of the logo. But she remained silent. Catherine continued excitedly. This will definitely increase my Instagram followers. I'll do a photo shoot with it tomorrow. Eleanor smiled with satisfaction. I thought it would suit you. The queen of society needs that kind of prestige. Mom, how much did this cost? Catherine asked curiously. Eleanor waved her hand, evading the question. You shouldn't ask the price of a Christmas gift. But Mom got it from an authorized store through a special connection, Olivia quietly observed. She knew her mother's claim about purchasing from an authorized store was a lie. The bag was clearly a fake. To her expert eye, it was merely an amateur-level imitation. However, not wanting to ruin the family's joy, Olivia remained silent. The next item Eleanor picked up was a small paper bag, a simple brown paper bag with a basic ribbon tied around it. Olivia, this is your present, Eleanor said with some hesitation. I thought this would suit you. The room fell silent. Catherine was still hugging her Birkin, wearing a small smile. Olivia politely accepted the paper bag and untied the ribbon. Inside was a folded green cloth. When she unfolded it, it turned out to be a free eco bag from a local supermarket. The bag had an Eco-Life logo printed on it. This is? Olivia was at a loss for words. The atmosphere in the room froze for a moment. Catherine let out a small laugh. Eleanor shrugged and said, Luxury items don't suit you. Isn't something practical more your style? She chuckled. You're always concerned about the environment, and it's convenient for shopping. Catherine added nastily while hugging her Birkin. Well, it's not like you have occasions to carry luxury bags, right? You just go between work and home. Brand items don't suit you anyway. Jeremy showed a momentary expression of discomfort but said nothing. Olivia slowly picked up the eco bag and stroked the fabric with her fingers. Her expression revealed nothing. But internally she felt a mix of sadness and anger at why her mother and sister underestimated her so much. As an international luxury brand authenticator, she handled items worth millions of dollars every day. And ironically, the luxury bag her sister proudly held was a poor-quality fake that she could identify at a glance. Thank you, Olivia said quietly. Then she slowly looked up and stared at Catherine's Birkin. And then, she smiled quietly. It was a gentle smile, but something else was hidden in her eyes. What? Why are you looking at my bag like that? Catherine asked, feeling a bit anxious. Nothing, Olivia replied quietly. It's a nice bag. Catherine laughed, relieved. Isn't it? Just imagine walking around with this. Everyone will be staring at me. Olivia silently placed the eco bag on her lap. In her mind, the true value of the Birkin, and the irony of the situation had become clear. You still don't know, she whispered to herself. One of the world's foremost experts in identifying authentic Hermes Birkins was being given a free eco bag. Meanwhile, her sister and mother were delighted with a fake Birkin. Olivia inwardly smiled bitterly at the irony of the situation. After the holiday, Olivia returned to her office in New York. The International Luxury Brand Authentication Association's office on the 14th floor of a luxurious glass building was shining in the morning light. Her desk was already piled high with new authentication requests. Welcome back, James Morrison approached with 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Olivia. How was your holiday? Olivia accepted the coffee with a grateful smile. Thanks. Well, it was as expected. That could be taken as either good or bad. James sat down in the chair next to her. Tell me more. Olivia heaved a deep sigh. My mother gave my sister a Hermes Birkin, and to me she gave a free eco bag from the local supermarket. James raised an eyebrow in disbelief for a moment. You're joking, right? I'm not joking, Olivia shook her head. But that's not the biggest issue. My sister's Birkin was a fake, and a bad one at that. What? James exclaimed. You didn't tell them? I couldn't. I didn't want to ruin the atmosphere. Olivia sipped her coffee. My mother claimed she'd bought it from an authorized store, but she was clearly deceived. She probably paid a high price thinking it was a special deal. James stood up from his chair and began pacing the room, visibly angry. Why didn't you tell them the truth? This isn't just about a fake, it's about them not respecting your expertise, Olivia shrugged. They wouldn't believe me even if I told them. And, besides what? This is hard to say, but maybe I didn't want to see them embarrassed, Olivia answered quietly. My mother and sister have always valued appearances and social status. If they knew they'd been sold a fake, their pride would be shattered. James nodded understandingly, though he still didn't seem entirely convinced. I understand. But the truth will come out eventually. Those words became reality sooner than James had imagined. 3 weeks later, on a weekday afternoon, Olivia's office phone rang. The screen displayed the name Catherine. Contact from her sister was unusual. Olivia answered with some apprehension. Catherine? What's wrong? Olivia, you won't believe it. Catherine's excited voice burst through the receiver. I put the Birkin up for auction online. There's already a bid of $80,000. Olivia froze. What? You're selling the Birkin? Of course. I want an even more expensive bag, Catherine replied excitedly. If I sell this Birkin, I can buy a more luxurious crocodile leather Birkin. Jeremy's mother has a crocodile Birkin. I want one too. Olivia realized the terrible truth. Her sister was unwittingly trying to sell a counterfeit for a high price, which could potentially lead to fraud charges. Even if unintentional, selling a fake item as authentic was against the law. Catherine, listen. You need to take down that listing right now, Olivia said in a serious voice. Why? It's getting such a high price. I need to explain. I'm coming to Chicago right away, Olivia decided firmly. What are you talking about? The auction ends tomorrow. I'll be there before then. Don't do anything, just wait. Olivia explained the urgent family matter to her boss and caught a flight to Chicago that afternoon. She arrived at the family home at 8 p.m. When she opened the door, Catherine and Mother Eleanor were sitting in the living room with worried expressions. What's happened? Why did you come in such a hurry? Eleanor asked. Olivia put down her suitcase and took a deep breath. Catherine, where's the Birkin? Catherine pointed to the brown bag on the coffee table with a puzzled expression. It's right here. What's the problem? It's already up to $85,000. Olivia picked up the bag and examined it closely again. Her initial judgment was correct. This was clearly a fake. Being in the profession, she carried a small magnifying glass in her pocket. She took it out and examined the stitching and hardware of the bag in more detail. What are you doing? Catherine asked anxiously. Olivia quietly placed the bag down and looked at her family. This Birkin is a fake, she said in a gentle voice. What are you saying? Mother Eleanor shouted, her face turning red. I bought it from an authorized store. I paid $40,000. You were scammed, Olivia said sadly. With my eye as an authenticator, it's obvious. These stitches, the quality of the leather, the stamp inside, all have characteristics of a counterfeit. Eleanor shook her head vigorously. You're wrong. That store is famous. It's in a prime location on Oakland Avenue. Olivia continued her explanation calmly. Authentic Hermes is only sold in specific boutiques. and they have limited stock. The store you went to was probably a fraudulent operation selling counterfeit brands. Catherine began to cry violently. But I already promised to sell it, she said in a trembling voice. I've already been in contact with the bidder. I've already received part of the money. Olivia presented the terrible truth that could potentially constitute fraud. Even if you didn't know, selling a fake as authentic can make you legally liable. The room fell silent. Eleanor collapsed into a chair, covering her face with her hands. Catherine asked in a voice filled with fear, while shaking, "What should I do? Will I be arrested?" "First, take down the auction immediately," Olivia said in a firm voice. "And if you've already received any money, you must refund it all." "But how do I explain it?" Catherine asked tearfully. "Everyone thinks I have a real Birkin. I posted it on Instagram." Olivia was silent for a moment, looking around the room. The family was in a state of panic. Mother Eleanor was shocked to learn that what she thought was a luxury store was actually run by scammers selling fakes. Catherine was terrified of potential legal trouble and loss of reputation in society. "I'll handle it," Olivia said quietly. "Leave it to me." The next morning, Olivia had her laptop open on the living room table of the family home, working with concentration. Catherine and Mother Eleanor sat around her with anxious expressions. "I've done it." Olivia tapped the keyboard one last time and sighed. "This is the official authentication certificate. It proves that Mother was a victim of fraud." She turned the screen toward her family. It displayed an official authentication certificate with the International Luxury Brand Authentication Association letterhead. The fake's characteristics were explained with detailed photos and technical terms, with Olivia Payne's signature and official seal at the bottom. "This is my title." Olivia pointed to the bottom of the certificate. "Senior Authenticator, International Luxury Brand Authentication Association, a qualification recognized by auction houses and insurance companies worldwide." Her mother and sister had expressions of surprise. "You've been doing such an important job?" Eleanor asked incredulously. Olivia laughed softly. "Yes, Mom. I'm not just looking at some antiques but a specialist who determines the authenticity of luxury goods worth billions of dollars annually." Catherine was looking at her sister with new eyes. "So that's why you knew that Birkin was fake just by looking at it?" "Yes, but now we're not talking about my job, but how to solve your problem." Olivia switched the screen. "I've prepared documentation proving that Mother was a victim of fraud. I've already contacted the police and requested an investigation into that counterfeit store. I told them our association would cooperate, so they should take it seriously." "What about the auction?" Catherine asked worriedly. "I've already handled it," Olivia said confidently. "I've issued a notice with my authentication certificate saying, auction cancelled as the item was determined to be counterfeit by expert authentication. Based on the auction site's anti-counterfeit policy, there will be no penalties to your seller account." Catherine sank deep into her chair with a relieved expression. "Really? What about legal responsibility?" "You'll be fine since you responded immediately upon learning the authentication results. I've also made it clear that there was no intentional fraud," Olivia explained calmly. "I've contacted the bidders individually through the auction site, so you don't need to apologize directly." Tears welled up in Eleanor's eyes. $40,000, all wasted. Olivia placed a hand on her mother's shoulder. "Not necessarily. With evidence of fraud, you might be able to claim compensation if the police investigation progresses. That store must have other victims, so it could become a big case." Catherine was staring at her smartphone with a troubled face. "But what about my Instagram followers? Everyone's waiting for my Birkin posts, my image in society." Olivia frowned momentarily but quickly hid it. Her sister still didn't seem to fully understand. Olivia said in a serious voice, "True value isn't about appearances or brand names, it's about who you are and what you can do. But everyone thinks I have a Birkin. And what if they find out it's fake?" Olivia quietly asked. "What would your society friends say?" Catherine looked up. Fear floated in her eyes. "Being your true self is far more valuable than giving a false impression," Olivia continued. "I don't work for Instagram likes. I work to distinguish between real and fake, and to protect people from fraud." These words seemed to bring about some change in Catherine. She put down her smartphone and nodded quietly. Meanwhile, Eleanor had been sitting at the kitchen table, silent for a while. "I've been wrong all along," she suddenly murmured. Olivia and Catherine turned toward their mother. "I've been too concerned with appearances and social status, and I couldn't see what was truly important," Eleanor continued. "Olivia, you have wonderful talent and knowledge, but I didn't acknowledge it." Olivia sat next to her mother and held her hand. "It's enough that you know now, Mom. Would you tell me more about your career?" Eleanor asked sincerely. Olivia smiled. For years, this was the first time her family had shown interest in her work. She began to talk about her specialty, her role in the International Authentication Agency, and how her annual income far exceeded what her family could imagine. Catherine listened with an expression of surprise. You earn that much. But you always wear simple clothes and don't live lavishly. That's my choice, Olivia answered. For me, luxury is living according to my own values. I don't need to adorn myself with things. Catherine showed genuine respect to her sister for the first time. I was wrong. I didn't realize what an amazing person you are. Mother Eleanor also apologized tearfully. I couldn't appreciate you properly. That eco bag was a terrible gift, wasn't it? Olivia smiled gently. That eco bag might become the best gift in my life, because it gave me the opportunity to correct our family's values. The three of them gazed at each other quietly, feeling that something had begun to change. The ironic incident with the fake Birkin had changed their relationship and taught them what true value is. 1 year later, Christmas. The Payne family living room was filled with warm light, just like the previous year. However, the atmosphere there was clearly different. Olivia stood in front of the fireplace, sipping hot chocolate while looking at the snowy landscape outside the window. Last year's fake Birkin incident had developed in ways beyond expectations. With her cooperation, the police had busted a large-scale counterfeit brand sales network based in Chicago. Eleanor's testimony had been crucial, and the fraudsters received guilty verdicts. Olivia. Turning around, Catherine was standing with a smile. Her appearance had clearly changed from a year ago. Instead of flashy dresses and accessories, she wore a simple yet sophisticated dress. Everything's ready. Everyone's waiting for the gift exchange. Over the past year, Catherine had grown significantly. Through Olivia's introduction, she had begun an internship at a luxury fashion brand, learning about actual clothing design and the craftsmanship behind her. Warm smile. Her mother had changed too. After receiving compensation from the fraudsters, she had donated half of it to a fund supporting women entrepreneurs. Now it's time for gift exchange, Eleanor said gently. There was no trace of last year's ostentatious attitude. This year, none of the presents were flashy. Instead, they all reflected thoughtfulness and consideration. Catherine gave Olivia a handmade sketchbook, bound using the design skills she had learned in her internship. For sketching what you see on your next overseas trip, Catherine said shyly. Eleanor gave Olivia a framed digital restoration of old family photos. Our true treasure, she said. And finally, what Olivia gave to her mother and sister were matching sophisticated tote bags. Simple yet made of high-quality materials, with the words "true value lies in what can't be seen" embroidered inside. This is? Catherine picked up the bag and examined it carefully. It's a limited edition eco bag that I helped design, Olivia smiled. It combines sustainability and practicality. True value isn't in appearances but in functionality and thoughtfulness. Eleanor hugged her daughter, deeply moved. I still have so much to learn from you. In Olivia's hands was that eco bag she had received last year, now a symbol of the family's transformation. That bag had become indispensable for her daily shopping. Thanks to the fake Birkin, we found our genuine bond, Eleanor said with a smile. Catherine hugged her sister and whispered, now I understand the meaning of that smile. She remembered the mysterious smile Olivia had while looking at the fake Birkin last Christmas. It wasn't contempt or irony, but a gentle certainty for seeing the change that was about to happen. True luxury isn't about possessions, but richness of heart, Olivia quietly replied. Outside the window, snow continued to fall silently. The world was covered in white, appearing as if everything was starting anew. The three women of the Payne family had been liberated from materialistic values and found their true bond. And it was a change that began with just one eco bag.